Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee Wolf with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Welcome to episode 3 of Water Media Wednesday. Today I'm going to be working with this stamp from Prima Marketing and using these stamps kind of as some background. It's very watery media, so you'll see that we don't get a distinct impression. I'm using Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals, and again that stamp is from Prima Marketing from scrapbook.com if you're interested in checking that out. I will have all the supplies listed in my blog on my website at B.Rebornart.com. I'm going to go ahead and give a coat of gesso to this page. And again, I'm working in my 6x6 homemade discbound journal. This has inexpensive watercolor paper in it. And I'm using the gesso so that I can create a barrier between the paper, which is very absorbent because it is watercolor paper, and the mediums that I'm going to be applying. The mediums are very wet. And so I want to make sure that I get a good coverage on my page. And I do dry after I applied that gesso, and making sure that that's nice and dry before I proceed with adding my mediums. And if you haven't checked out Lindy's Stamp Gang Magicals, they are a phenomenal product. Very messy, but they're super magical is all I can say. And I'll be using this stamp, and I will have to look up where I got the stamp, and I'll put that in the description on my blog. I'm applying the powders directly with a paintbrush onto the stamp. One caution that I would have for you is that you do want to make sure that you wash this stamp really good so that you get all that powder out of all the crevices of the stamp. And then that's the second color, which is, I apologize, the first color was Blingy Blonde, and this is Whale Watch Blue. And they were just striking colors together. I really liked the combination. When I'm done putting this on with the brush, I'm going to go ahead and spritz it with some water so I get a lot of movement with that pigment. It is pretty, it's not chunky, but it's very intense. And so I do want to make sure that I get a lot of water on there, which is another reason why I gave a good coat of gesso to my page. I'm going to go ahead and pick that stamp up and place it directly on my paper. And as you'll be able to see, you don't get really an impression. You kind of get, it's kind of like using a stamp block, really. Depending on what media you use, this effect or this technique can be used with a number of mediums, which give you all kinds of different effects and different results. So I'm going to go ahead and spritz that stamp again, just to get a little bit more of that pigment, and then I put my paper on top of it this time. And I really liked the subtlety of this design. And I'm do add this third magical, which is Red Hot Poker Orange. And this stamp really didn't work very well. It just really kind of made a soppy mess. But again, it's a way to get some pigment on the paper, kind of in a random way. You wouldn't get the same result if you were dipping or if you were using a stamp block or anything like that. So it's just another way to play with the medium and create a background. And then I'm using this third stamp, and I'm going to actually be using my Ranger Black Archival ink, and I'm going to stamp with that in various places around the page. And then I will be heat embossing. It will heat emboss when I do the girl, because I'm going to heat emboss her as well. So that black archival ink was still wet, so it did end up embossing as well, even though that was not the intended effect for me. And that was just a flash of the clear embossing powder that I'll be using. And again, I'm using black archival ink to stamp my girl. And I love the Prima. If you haven't seen the Prima Marketing girls, they are amazing. They have all kinds of designs, and I think I have most of them in the collection. Some of them I don't care for. They're kind of out there, but you'll hopefully see more of that in upcoming tutorials here for Water Media Wednesday. And for this image, I'm using versafine black onyx ink. It's very wet, and it's great for a really crisp stamping and a crisp embossing experience. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. And that is the Tim Holtz stamp platform that I'm using there. I think I'm going to dedicate a video to talking about the various ways that you can use the stamp platform. So you can be looking forward to that in the future. There are a lot of videos out there about it, but I haven't actually done one on my channel. And it is a game changer for stamping because you can stamp the image multiple times as long as you don't move the paper. And here I'm applying the clear embossing powder to my girl. And then I'm going to tap that off as best I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my heat tool and emboss that. And I am showing you the embossing process because I love the magical way that the heat tool basically melts that embossing powder because it is plastic. And you can just see her kind of come to life. And I haven't actually tried this embossing with black on a background like this. I've done a lot of other techniques personally, but this one I really loved. I loved how striking she was and how she popped out off of the page. So yeah, hopefully you'll learn a lot of new techniques that you have not maybe considered. I learn a lot on YouTube videos. I did try to apply the sentiment, She Won't Settle for Ordinary, directly on the page, but I do end up fixing that and stamping it on a piece of paper because it was obscured by the image. And so you're going to see me doing that. I do cut out part of that process because it was kind of unnecessary. But I do come back in, even though I did heat set this to see what kind of effect I was going to get, but I didn't like that the lines in the stamp in the girl and that kind of chicken wire stamp kind of took away from the sentiment. So, and here's just another piece of watercolor paper that I used. And this is just inexpensive Canson Montville watercolor paper, not very expensive and pretty good quality. So here I'm stamping it on that small piece of paper, and then I will be, looks like I'm stamping it a second time. And this is the beauty of the stamp. As long as you don't move the paper, you can stamp twice and you won't even know that, nobody will know that you stamped it twice. It's pretty awesome. And so here I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that as well. And then I'll cut that down to size so that it's pretty much the same size as what I printed or what I stamped on the actual page. But it's a good way to recover a design when you have a mistake like I had. More often than not, there is a workaround rather than kind of scrapping the page and throwing it away. Cannot talk today. You can improvise, and like I'm doing here, I just came in with a piece of paper and covered that over. Was able to still get the quote on the page without it looking all funky. So I was glad that I went that route. This one was a fairly simple video. I really mainly wanted to show you what the Lindy Stamp Gang Magicals do and how they perform on the paper. They're beautiful. They do change colors when they mix or when they're applied with more or less water. They've just got a lot of possibilities, and they're a great deal of fun. And you can find those on Amazon.com, but you can also get them directly on the Lindy Stamp Gang website. They have a lot of beautiful products. I've done a lot of videos and a lot of editing, so I'm getting a little tongue-tied trying to keep up with all the video editing and the voiceovers. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that strip of paper with my quote back on the page. I did edge it with some Ranger Black Archival ink just to kind of give it a little bit of a frame. I didn't want to blacken this page. I wanted it to remain pretty light and bright. And so that's why I'm doing that rather than my typical charcoal outlining and bordering of the page. I decided not to do that. and it was crooked when I put it on. And that was just double-sided sticky tape that you can just get at a craft store. I get it at a variety of places, so I'm not necessarily going to put that in the description or in the blog post. You can find it pretty much anywhere. I'm coming in with my watercolor aqua markers, and this is Spectrum Noir aqua markers. And this is blue, and then the other one is burgundy, which I'll come in and color her lips, the little heart on her cheek, as well as that flower on her arm that looks like it's supposed to be like a tattoo. She is one of my favorite Prima girls. I've used her a lot. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you learned something new. And I hope that you'll come back next week for episode 4. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.